Caleb Williams looks like I say, like a grown ass man.
They did what they were supposed to do versus Carolina. They did what they were supposed to do versus Jacksonville. And they did what they were supposed to do versus the Rams. You have to beat the bad teams that are in front of you. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you can't take what they did too seriously. The meat of their schedule is coming up. Well, that's great. But if the meat of their schedule was coming up and they were 2-4, we would be killing them. So how about them Bears?
Let's go to the Bears. Let's run in the show now. I can't say anything anymore because we actually have sponsors. So
I mean, you can say whatever you want. One of our sponsors actually which is a clothing line, is geared towards mental health. So it's kind of perfect for some of the things you talk about. And welcome to Combs and Fitz, Windy City Sports Talk, live from our basements. It's Saturday night. I stole that from Fitz before the show. Your mic is muted.
It's Saturday Night Live.
I stole it from Fitz. I had forgot to change my settings prior to the show. We normally sit down and talk a few minutes before the show, and we talk about little things, like, hey, how's everything going? How much does life suck this week? And we talk about those things. And Fitz said, I came on and I said, live from New York, it's Saturday night, and you didn't hear me.
No, you didn't.
So I fixed all the settings, and then I stole it.
You ruined life.
I'm a Chicago sports fan.
Yes.
I thought ruining life was the object of the game. Is it not?
Yeah. Whew. Tough.
Why is the stage running through your face?
Do you don't like it? I'm not really here. I'm not on the Saturday Night Live set now.
Are you coming to me live from one of those drones that's flying around?
Yeah, over New Jersey.
I've heard
and
Jersey,
parts of New York, I guess.
New York. I've heard that they're all over the place. And
apparently
the
aliens have landed.
Shot down because they don't know what they are, so they don't want to shoot them down. They don't want to start an interstellar war.
You were in the military. The military's already admitted that there are UFOs.
Look,
I feel like if we didn't have this
one of those flying around my backyard, I'm going to grab my 307 from underneath my bed with a scope. I'm taking one out, and we're going to find out what the hell it is. I'm just telling you that right now.
Yeah, at least we don't know what they are. I mean, they could be lying, but it's happening. If we didn't have this crazy news cycle and the internet, if this was like 20 years ago, people would be like, "Oh my God, like there are UFOs." But nowadays, it's just like another news article.
If there were aliens and this was an interstellar, all they'd have to do is just fly above us for I don't know, approximately. I'd give it about 12 hours before they said, yeah, we don't need to fuck with these guys.
We're not going to come to the bear.
They're going to kill themselves. We don't have to take this over just yet. We'll come back in 10 years and we'll be able to take the planet for nothing.
They came down, they watched the Bears Thanksgiving game, and then they were sure there was no intelligent life on this planet.
Back home
and left. Yeah, it might not even be aliens. We just don't know what they are. It could be a lie, but it's been said. And it's so weird that we're all just like, oh, yeah. Oh, my God, there's UFOs.
Yeah.
Oh, and did P. Diddy rape a 13-year-old? It's like, and then we're just on to the next thing. It's so crazy. If this was like 20 years ago, we'd all be like, what is going on? And it's just like, no, like, what's Trump going to do in his first year? It's like, what?
It's wild.
There's stuff they don't know what it is. That's all over New Jersey and New York.
Yeah. They flew down and they saw the presidential election and they were like, wow, these are their candidates?
Yes.
We'll come back in a few years. They'll take care of themselves. They'll do this themselves.
You know what, John? Is this a sports show now? Is this a sports show?
Is this
He's running the show? He's running the show.
John,
we can talk about whatever the hell we want to.
You hop on the show once a month.
He just wants to talk about Notre Dame. That's it.
You do a show a week, and you hop on once a month, and now you think you can just start barking orders?
Yeah, he's setting up the show for us now.
We are coming to give you great content on a Saturday night We are using our Saturday night. Do you know
Wow.
how busy we are? Do you know how popular we are? Do you know where else we could be? But instead, we're in our basements. Well,
Yeah.
I am. Fitzy's in New York. But we're in our basements talking to you, bringing content to you.
Yeah. I mean, you'd think he'd feel
Is
special, but
show? What the hell? But at any rate,
That's terrible.
thanks, Charles.
thanks, Charles. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate everybody who does join. Well, almost everybody that joins. We don't really appreciate John. Yes, John, we are going to talk Notre Dame. We're going to talk about Notre Dame in the playoffs. We're actually going to fill out our playoff brackets while we are here as well. And Megan TV says, so this is Christmas.
So
Welcome,
this is
Megan
Christmas.
TV. I haven't seen you in a few weeks. Where the hell have you been?
You were jonesing?
Too? Were you consoling Matt Eberflus?
Yes.
His beard.
She was shaving his beard.
She was shaving his beard. I knew it.
So this is Christmas.
She made a Christmas sweater out of it, didn't she? No?
It's possible.
Oh,
you could. You could. I mean, it's not that big a beard, but maybe.
Your sister, sir. You're afraid of your sister.
I'm a little scared.
You talk shit to John when I talk, but you won't talk shit to Megan TV.
I'm a little scared. I'm gonna admit it. I mean, I don't think it's anything.
Wow. I love her more than I already did.
Oh, here we go. Aren't we doing a sports show?
We are doing a sports show. And welcome. And we've got a lot of sports to talk about. We're going to talk about the Cubs. We're going to talk about the Bears. We're going to talk about the White Sox. I don't know why, but we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which side of town do you want to start with? Do we want to start with the team by the lake? Do we want to start with the North Siders, or do we want to start with the South Siders? Where do you want to go?
Let's just start with the Cubs.
You're so depressed.
Start with the Cubs. I don't want to talk about the Bears again. I just don't want to talk about it. Unless we're going to talk about Bill Belichick's girlfriend. John wants to start with Notre Dame. John wants to start with.
So they're going last then. We're going to do Notre Dame last then.
In 2.5 hours.
You want to talk about the Buffalo Bills? When you talk about them, they got a pretty good quarterback, man. And a
pretty good team.
I
did not know that team was going to be this good.
Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns last week, 3 rushing, 3 passing.
Yeah, ridiculous. Sam Darnold, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
The new red rifle.
So last week was the first week of my football playoffs in my big money league, which we actually have our Christmas party tonight. So I'm going to see the guys tonight. But we were up against Sam Darnold last week. I was my team going up against Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold puts up 50 in the noon game, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna lose in round 1. This is some shit again. And then I have Josh Allen as my quarterback, and Josh Allen put up 70, and he set a record for fantasy points by a quarterback, and brought me right back into the game, and we win the game, and we should win again this week, hopefully. So let's go. Let's win our damn league. Downing Thomas says, email you guys my updated address to mail my WCS FFL championship trophy.
Yeah, is it? Did you win already, or
did he change his moniker to a guy holding a trophy?
You have to say, you have to give him something for his commitment to the bit. Is it over? It's not even over yet.
At some point, I'm going to steal his wife, so I guess I'll have to give him something.
Mm-hmm. See, there you go.
You're not touching any of this tonight. What is wrong with you?
What do you want me to say? You want me to stab you in the throat 10 minutes in? What am I going to do? I'm going to finish the show by myself?
How the hell are you going to stab me?
I yelled at John. That usually gets you a little bit hard. It usually gives you semi-soft. Or semi-hard. Are you a semi-soft guy or a semi-hard guy?
Yeah,
are you a half empty glass, half empty
We're
gonna
lay this out. We're gonna lay this out right here, right now. There is nothing you've ever done that have made me any type of harm, just so you know.
Oh my God.
Oh, at any rate. So yeah, look, the Cubs make a big trade. Kyle Tucker. And I talked about this at length yesterday with a bunch of the guys over at 670. I talked about it on BetMGM tonight. If you guys listened to the show last night, you've kind of heard my thoughts on it. So Fitzy, I want to hear what your thoughts are on this trade before I give my 2 cents. You and I talked about it right after it happened. I called you up and we talked about it a little bit. So you kind of know how I feel about it. What are your thoughts?
I mean, how could you not like Kyle Tucker, top 10 in WAR? I mean, one of the 15 best hitters over the last 3-4 years.
4.7 WAR last year. He only played 75 games.
Yeah, but still had 20 something home runs.
That's what I'm saying. He was on pace to be an 8 WAR player.
Yeah, I mean, just ridiculous. Maybe even more than that if he has a good, second half.
Right.
Love the way he swings, man. I love it. He barrels everything. He's a left-handed bat. You needed a guy like this in this lineup. I think he'll hit over 30 home runs. He's only hit 30 home runs a couple times in his career, but I think he'll hit over 30 home runs in his career. I mean, I guess you could say he's not a big slugging guy, but he's slugged 500 before or close to. Who cares if your OPS is towards 1,000? I mean, I at that point, I don't care what you're doing to get there. Walks a lot. He's from a great organization, even though I fucking hate the Astros with like the same white hot anger as I hated the Pistons in the early 90s, late 80s, like the same as I hate the Packers. I just hate the Astros. But I mean, that organization is kind of just, they're not signing Bregman. They got rid of Kyle Tucker here. I think it's a great, signing by the Cubs. And I've given a lot of shit to the Cubs. I mean, trade by the Cubs. I did not think they would get him. I didn't think Jed Hoyer would take a chance like this. I wish he would act this way in free agency.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm in a wait and see with the Cubs because of this move. That's how much I like it. Last week, if you would have asked me, I would have said, fuck the Cubs. Like, how could you be a fan of this team? Like, I mean, obviously being a fan of the White Sox, tough, but how could you be a fan of this team with all the money they have? They have a decent enough team where, hey, man, they have a couple contracts last year. They're in the playoffs pretty easily. Yeah. I mean, they're probably not pushing for a championship, but they're in the playoffs, and they didn't even have to gamble on the future to do it last year. That's my problem with the last 2 years. Yeah. So you didn't really have to gamble away the future to make the playoffs. I mean, it looks like they're restructuring this whole lineup. I mean, what, Seiya Suzuki's gone, right?
No, I don't know about that. I don't know. Bellinger's gone to the Yankees. They haven't
probably the only thing you wish you would have traded Bellinger first, because now everybody knows you got to get rid of him, or you almost have to.
Well, see, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, I don't know that you have to get rid of Bellinger, right? Because the reason why you don't have to get rid of Bellinger necessarily is because Bellinger can still play first base. So you could realistically keep Belly and have him play first base, and you could DH Suzuki, and you can just have, Michael Busch. He could platoon, or he could play second if you're going to trade. There's rumors that they're going to trade Nico Horner as well. I don't like those rumors. Nico's one of my favorite Cubs. But look, it just depends on what you're going to do, what your plan is. And here's the thing, too, is that there's also rumors swirling right now around the Cubs in Miami and Jesus Luzardo, and going and getting one of their top 2 pitchers, Jesus Luzardo, for Owen Casey. Here's my thing with that. If you are going to be trading these guys, if you're trading Suzuki, if you're trading Owen Casey, I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it, especially when you got Kyle Tucker. However, Kyle Tucker's only on a 1-year deal. So if you're going to be trading all of these pieces that play right field, you should probably lock up the right fielder. and you just traded for a guy who's only got 1 year left on his deal. Now, look, in terms of the trade itself, I love the trade. I don't think that they gave up very much to get a guy like Kyle Tucker. When you're talking about Hayden Wesneski, who apparently was the sweetener of the deal that made it final, okay. like I feel like the Cubs fleeced the Houston Astros for Kyle Tucker. I really do. But you've got to go and extend him. You've got to make this a long-term
I think that's the piece there.
And if you don't, then I've got a lot of questions, especially if you're trading a guy like Owen Casey, who is supposed to have been your right fielder of the future. Now, granted, if you've got a proven player like Kyle Tucker, I am all for trading a guy who might be really good for a guy who we already know is really good. My problem now is, what do you do at the corner infield positions that are still an issue? What do you do at the closer position? Because if you're telling me, if on opening day, if you are telling me that Porter Hodge is the closer and Miles Mastrobuoni is the starting third baseman, Jed Hoyer is in danger because I'm going to burn down his office. Like it's just, you can't do that. So there has to be a flurry of moves. So when it comes to this trade, I like the trade in itself for right now, but I have to see what the rest of the subsequent trades around it and subsequent signings around it to win now, because that's what it looks like Jed is doing. He is in the last year of his contract as well. So it looks like he's kind of going all in to try to show, hey, look, I'm your GM of the future. I'm not a big Jed Hoyer guy, but this is what he's trying to do right now. I don't know, if trading those assets, if you already know, if you're the Ricketts family and you already know 90% chance that I'm letting Jed Hoyer walk at the end of this year, why are you going to let him trade away assets that could be valuable pieces for your GM of the future? So it's kind of a sketchy situation right now for the Cubs, because if you're trading all of these pieces, if the GM is walking at the end of next year and the Cubs don't win this year, and I'm not talking about winning the World Series, I'm talking about if they're not in the playoffs this year, if they don't win a down division this year, it's a really good time to reset, right? But the way you reset is with the pieces in the minor leagues, and if all those pieces have now been traded, what are we doing? Are we back to square one? Are we at 2012 again?
And you just got rid of two third basemen. One of the future, Cam Smith, and then Isaac Paredes. Was it your third baseman at the end of the year last year?
Just because of Matt Shaw. I'm pretty sure Matt Shaw will be the starting third baseman for the Cubs on opening day. They're high on Matt Shaw. He's been coming up through the system. Cam Smith only played, I think it was like 5 or 10 games higher than A-ball last year, and that was with Double-A Tennessee, I believe, if I remember correctly. He didn't play very much above A-ball, but Matt Shaw had a pretty good season in Triple-A, and they've been talking about him for a few years now. Same thing with Owen Casey, which is why I honestly thought that you were going to trade Seiya Suzuki. Belly was going to play first, and Owen Casey was going to be the right fielder to start the season, and Matt Shaw would be your third baseman to start the season. And I was like, okay, but you still need a big bat, so go and get a big bat. And they did that. They went and got the big bat. They got a guy who can hit 30-plus home runs at Wrigley. They got a guy who can hit for average while hitting 30-plus home runs. And they got a guy who sees a lot of pitches. They got the guy that they wanted Kyle Schwarber to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's who they got in Kyle Tucker. This is who they thought Kyle Schwarber was. And so, again, I'm okay with the trade right now, but I have to see the rest of the offseason, because if this is the only move, this is a horrendous trade.
Yeah, because and if you get rid of Bellinger and you don't get anybody who's major league ready, who you think's going to fit into your major league plans for Bellinger, then you got rid of Bellinger and now you're bringing in Kyle Tucker. Yeah, Bellinger isn't Kyle Tucker, but I mean he's 80% Kyle Tucker.
I heard a rumor yesterday at the station that I don't quite believe. I think it was somebody just kind of blowing up smoke, unless there's more to it than what we're being told. But I'm told that Bellinger to the Yankees will involve Luis Hill. And Luis Hill, look, the guy, Gill or Heel, however you say his last name, he's a really good starter. He's got more value than Cody Bellinger does. I mean, he is a solid starter. But he is the guy that Houston wanted for Kyle Tucker. And the Yankees said no. So why would they do that for Cody Bellinger? Now, unless of course you're giving Cody Bellinger and maybe Cade Horton and maybe a couple of other prospects, and you're giving them a haul for Luis Gil that includes Cody Bellinger, then maybe that makes more sense. But it can't just be Cody Bellinger for Luis Gil, right? I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense on the Yankees' end to say no to that for Kyle Tucker, but to say yes for Cody Bellinger. And if that is true, then hey, Brian Cashman's a worse GM than I thought he was.
Yeah, I don't see that happening, but who knows? I mean, Cody Bellinger would just be the 1-year deal as well, but
yeah.
I mean, he's definitely not Kyle Tucker, but I guess he can fit into the poor man's Kyle Tucker realm, I guess. I mean, he would definitely fit in great in that lineup. I mean, he definitely have a lot of protection with Stanton and Judge. If he's somewhere in there, he's probably going to see a lot of fastballs, a lot more than he did in the Cubs lineup. And he might actually look good in pinstripes over there, but nothing's been traded yet. We'll see where Bellinger goes, but I think a lot of people know that the Cubs have to get him off their hands now. Maybe they don't, but I just think they know that they have to now.
Bellinger is a different player in this Cubs lineup as presently constructed than he is in the Yankees lineup as presently constructed. And I think he's a much more valuable player in the Yankees lineup than he is in the Cubs lineup.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of who you can surround him with. Now, sure, you could bat him ahead of Kyle Tucker or bat him behind Kyle Tucker. But then, who's ahead of Kyle Tucker or who's behind Kyle Tucker is another story. Seiya Suzuki or whatever the case is. It just doesn't put the fear of God in you, right? Like, you're not worried about that lineup. The same way that the Cubs were last year. Teams came into Wrigley, or when the Cubs would go on the road, nobody was scared of this lineup. There was not one player that you looked at and you were like, that guy could hurt you. You know what I mean? And you need to find a guy that could hurt you. Now Kyle Tucker is that guy. Kyle Tucker is a guy that could hurt you. I would like another guy like that.
And Kyle Tucker did have Altuve in that lineup, Jordan Alvarez,
Dansby Swanson led the Cubs in WAR last year at 4. And that ranked 36th, I believe, in all of Major League Baseball. And if your best player is the 36th best player in all of Major League Baseball, you're not going to compete. You know what I mean? Like
that sounds like a Chicago Bears stat.
It does sound like a Chicago Bears stat. I heard a stat about the Washington Commanders. Remind me later, and we'll talk about that one too. It was insane. But I don't know. As presently constructed after this trade, and here's what I truly believe about the trade: the Cubs are a little bit better than they were yesterday with this trade.
Yes.
But it's just a little bit better than what they were because of all of the holes that are still there. You still have what are you doing at the corner infield positions? What are you doing with the bullpen? Who's closing out games for you? 31 games last year with tied or with a lead in the 7th inning or later. The Cubs bullpen lost those games. 31.
Sounds like a White Sox stat.
And you're going to tell me that Porter Hodge is the answer? And look, Porter Hodge looked good last year, but I would much rather see Porter Hodge fishing in the 6th and 7th inning.
He doesn't exist.
No, he's made him up. He's a mid relief guy.
In 1905. Porter Hodge.
Porter Hodge also throws like 101 miles an hour. So
I know.
I mean,
I'm familiar.
He can fire it in there, but he's a middle relief type of guy. I don't want Porter Hodge as my closer. I'm sorry. I don't understand why 5 minutes after the Toronto Blue Jays decided that they were going to part ways with Jordan Romano, why he wasn't on a chartered plane to Chicago that the Cubs were paying for for him to come sign a contract here. Instead, he ends up in Philadelphia, a franchise that knows how to run an organization and has proven so. The Cubs still have not done that. Jed Hoyer has not proven that he can run an organization without Theo Epstein. They haven't won since Theo left.
Yeah. And I don't think the guy, I don't think Cubs ownership or Cubs brass wants to get rid of him. I mean, they're still giving him a pretty long leash. I'd like to see him be able to spend more money. I don't know if that's coming from Jed to try to prove that he's smarter than everybody else or from ownership. It sounds like it's from ownership, but
yeah.
If they have to go this trade route, I think it's a really good trade. I always liked Kyle Tucker. I was hoping the Sox were going to get him 5-6 years ago. I didn't know he'd be this good, but yeah.
I mean, coming into this season, I mean, when you look around the division, right? The Cardinals are about to trade Goldschmidt and Arenado, according to all the reports. But the Cardinals are going to do that, and then they're going to win 30 more games than they won last year, because that's what the Cardinals do every time that they do this. The Brewers are looking like they're about to start a full rebuild. I mean, they are just letting everybody go. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what the deal is, but Milwaukee's not going to be good. Pittsburgh's still Pittsburgh. Not going to spend any money. Going to try to rest on what they are, which is about a 70-71 win team. They're not terrible. They're not really good. Cincinnati now is a different story.
Interesting.
And the Cubs being a plus 150 to win the NL Central after this trade with Kyle Tucker. The Cincinnati Reds are plus 600. My money's going on the Cincinnati Reds to win this division right now. Constructed with their manager.
Best manager in the game. It's hard to say that Terry Francona isn't the best manager in the game, has been. I mean, even when he was out of the league for a year. And man, I've heard some swirling winds about them trying to go after Luis Robert. Just the last couple of days, they get him.
That would be,
and if he has a year like he had a year ago,
oh my God,
that's going to be a pretty good team. I mean, we'll see.
That Luis Robert is a guy who could be an MVP candidate. We just never thought it would be with the Reds.
Watch him win one with the Reds. Oh my God! And then Crochet has a Cy Young with the Boston Red Sox. Yeah. Sounds about right,
doesn't it?
Well, since we're there, we might as well talk about it.
Let's transition.
I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I'm just telling you right now. I do not want to spend a lot of time here.
We'll try. The White Sox traded Garrettt Crochet to the Boston Red Sox for a haul of about 5 minor leaguers, I believe it was. 4,
unless there was a player to be named later. I think it's 4.
Navy 31, Army 13. Wow. Yeah, I did not look, I'm a big fan of Navy, obviously being a Marine. I picked Army to win this game. I thought Army, especially with their quarterback, Bryson Daly is a stud. I thought Bryson Daly was going to be able to run a lot better on that Navy defense, but they had a great game plan coming in. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this, but when Army won the AAC championship, Bryson Daly ran for 151 yards.
Jesus.
You know how many passes he attempted in that game?
Yes, I do. 3.
2.
Damn it.
He was 2 for 2.
Hey, that's
I want
to see in a quarterback.
When I went to go bet the game today, the first place I went to was pass attempts to see if I could bet an over/under. His were closed. They wouldn't put him up there. They wouldn't put a number.
No way. Was he sacked 56 times?
He might have been sacked 56 times a day.
Navy's not bad either, man.
No, they're good.
8-3 throughout the season.
Yeah, but they're not. Army had a much better season. I thought Army was going to be able to do something today, but Navy had a great game plan coming in. Maybe they went and got more Marines to play defense, like I suggested.
Oh, here we go. You're gonna start singing the song. The shores of Triple. Okay, I'm done. Don't shoot me.
The right.
Just don't shoot me.
I have the right, sir. to sing that song. You did not earn the right to sing that song.
It's the holiday season.
I don't care. I will put a bomb under your tree.
The tree's not even in the picture. You don't get to whine about it today.
God.
You don't have any Christmas stuff. The Christmas doesn't exist.
What do you mean I don't have any Christmas stuff? You know, Christmas is predicated on a false person, Santa Claus. My whole collection here is based on a false hope.
Hulk Hogan?
One day we
Hulk
will have
Hogan?
championships again in this city.
Hulk Hogan?
Same thing. False hopes.
Speaking of false hopes, Garrettt Crochet was traded to the Red Sox. Headlining the trade is Kyle Teal. He's a switch hitting catcher. A little bit of pop in his bat.
So you think if the Cubs were to try to get Luis Robert, we could send you Moises Ballesteros?
No. Any trade package you're going to talk about for Luis Robert, I'm going to say no right away.
You don't want another slugging catcher in the minors?
Another catcher. I mean, the Sox have 2 catchers now.
The Cubs don't want a catcher. They don't think he can catch.
Wow. That's not good to be a catcher and not be able to catch.
No, it's not good to be a career minor league power hitting DH. It's not good. But at any rate, go ahead. Garrettt Crochet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care much about the trade. I think the only thing it's pretty sad. Was reading a little bit about the trade. I mean, you got a fucking unicorn in that draft in 2020 or the 2020 draft where Garrettt Crochet actually pitches. Thomas, good thing on IU. Yeah, I was gonna get to that comment when we talked about the Notre Dame. I'm
talking about his picture. Do you see his new picture? It's a guy hugging his wife.
Oh my God. Wow. It took him since his last comment. That's how long it him to look for it.
He was looking for the perfect one.
22 minutes. He's just been looking for that. He hasn't even been listening to the show. He doesn't even know what we're on. No, way off topic. Good thing that IU didn't make the tourney. Yeah, that could be tough. I don't know if it's the same Notre Dame team, but anyway, yeah.
All right, so you don't care about the trade. Do you care about...
I think it's sad that you get rid of Garrettt Crochet, who's a fucking unicorn. He's one of only 4 guys in the entire 2020 draft who's made an all-star team.
Mm-hmm.
Only 4, and you got one of them. Basically like Chris Sale, he's one of the first guys in the draft to play in the majors. He plays in 2020.
Yeah.
And pitches really well. He throws like more 100-mile-an-hour fastballs than almost anybody in the league, and he pitches like 10 innings.
Right.
Got a very, it's just sad that you got 2 years control of this guy and you got to trade him. It's much different than Chris Sale. Chris Sale had a herky-jerky throw. He had not had Tommy John surgery yet. He would get Tommy John surgery with the Boston Red Sox.
In the locker room.
Yeah, he would cut up jerseys in the locker room. Yeah, I mean, there was other things going on with Chris Sale at the time. Obviously, he had better seasons than Garrettt Crochet has had starting. He almost won a Cy Young, but it's a very different player, even though they had similar trajectories with being in the bullpen at first and then going to starting rotation. Just very different careers. I mean, Garrettt Crochet looks like very easy throw, very easy wind up. He's already had Tommy John surgery, so you really don't have to worry about that for 3 or 4 years. I guess guys are getting Tommy John surgeries every 5 years now, whatever that's all about. But you don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, he's a different prospect. This guy could absolutely blow up and be, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. I mean, per 9 innings, he was the best. Strikeouts. So it's just sad that it's just, this organization is just rotten to the core, but I mean, I guess you could say you got a haul for nowadays. I mean, for Chris Sale, who I think is was very similar, even though he had, like I said, he had more success in the majors. I think it was a very similar build, just because Garrettt Crochet now has 2 years, a lot cheaper than Chris Sale was back then. Like I said, already had Tommy John surgery. You don't get a haul like you did back then. I mean, you got the number one prospect in baseball back then, in Yoan Moncada.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to remember how well Yoan Moncada was thought about back then, and just look at his 2019 season to see how good he could have been. I mean, you got a switch hitting guy who could really play third base and hit for power. And maybe that's what you got out of Kyle.
The year that he's on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that it didn't work out. But from 2019 and even in 2021, he had a pretty good year. You're thinking this is going well with the guy. But anyway, I mean, you do get a switch hitting Kyle Teal catcher, does hit for power. Is athletic too. Can play multiple positions. Has played right field. I think that if I had to pick a prospect out of this, it would have to be Braden Montgomery here. We have another Montgomery.
Yeah.
He throws a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, and he's a right fielder. He hits for power, and then some. Is a true five-tool player. Now he got hurt with Texas A&M at the end of last season.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. He looks like if he can just put it together. But you don't know if these guys are going to be good. Like I just said, Garrettt Crochet is one of only 4 All-Stars from that 2020 draft. Only 4. And you have to let him go.
Chris Getz saying that they're going to put a bid in on Roki Sasaki?
Yeah, I don't. That like why? I mean, is this 2004 when
just
they got Tadahito Iguchi? God, I can't believe I forgot his name because their closer at the time was Japanese, and they were like kind of bringing in Japanese players. It's funny, Ozzie Guillen even got a Rosetta Stone to speak Japanese. This is one of the funniest Ozzie Guillen stories. He gets a Rosetta Stone to speak Japanese because they're bringing in these Japanese players. There might have been another Japanese player in the minors at that time. And he thinks the Rosetta Stone is just going to like by osmosis teach him Japanese. Like he's just going to learn it by like putting it by his head when he goes to bed. And since it doesn't work, he just like gets all pissed off and gives it to Don Cooper, who's the pitching coach at the time, because it didn't just like teach him. He didn't like, which is insane, but
Chicago.
No, they're not in on that. I mean, if anything, the Dodgers are going to get.
I mean, they might put something together and be like, "Hey, this is what we'll give you," but it's not going to be a serious offer, and it's not going to be an offer they expect him to accept. And that's the thing. Like, it's put out there because of all of the grief they get for saying early that they're not going to be in on Shohei Ohtani. They're not going to be in on Juan Soto. They're not going to be in on these big free agents. And they get a lot of grief for that. So when you say, yeah, we're going to make a pitch to Roki Sasaki, that's stopping from further people being like, oh, so you're not even making a play on this guy. When in real life, you're not getting.
They might not have had a chance.
Want to come here.
They might not have had a chance anyway. And the team, it's not the same organization as it was back in 2004. I mean, this was a organization that was looked at internationally as a place to go, really, even the last 15 years leading up to 2020, 2021. It really was. I mean, that's how they got Luis Robert. That's how they got Jose Abreu. It is not anymore. I mean, they're just in the past. And I can't even listen to Chris Getz anymore. Like, it's just like none of these guys are going to be really. I mean, I guess it'll be fun. I think Kyle Teal is going to play this year. I think he starts in 2025 at some point. I'm hoping he starts the season. Maybe you got Colson Montgomery playing shortstop. There'll be some fun thing. Maybe, maybe there'll be some young new pitchers. See what Nick Nastrini does. I don't know who's starting. the first game of the season here. Noah Schultz is a great left-hander, but the way he throws, it's just a matter of time before his elbow explodes, and it's the ulnar ligament, and that's it. He's got to have Tommy John surgery. I mean, I said I was only going to spend a little time on this. I'm done. What do you think about the trade? Like, give me 30 seconds and let's move on.
Maybe Jameson Taillon can start opening day for you guys when you guys trade him to the Cubs for Luis Robert.
Luis Robert, straight up. 1-1, 3 years of Luis Robert.
For Jameson Taillon.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, at this point, are they even, is there any, I mean, what is the percentages right now? I don't think Vegas has the percentages that the White Sox are even playing baseball in Chicago in 3 or 4 years. I mean,
it's
really,
probably very low at this point.
Yeah, it is, and it's sad. It's sad, and I've been saying it for years, and people say I'm nuts. Like, being a White Sox fan isn't just rooting for a team; you're rooting for them to be good, so they can have sustainable success, so they can stay in this town. And everybody said I was crazy. Actually, I think even you might have said, or somebody in the comments said I was crazy when I said it 2 years ago. It is not crazy. This is the death rattle of an organization, if you've ever heard one before. But
yeah, I know that there's a lot
of that's just gibberish
for them to sell the White Sox. I know the Reinsdorf boys want to keep the Bulls, but they do not want to keep the White Sox. And so they've been giving Jerry a lot of pressure to sell the White Sox. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. You keep hearing more and more reports that he's going to be more willing to talk about selling them. I just don't see it happening. Which it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Southsiders over the next couple of years. Like, the White Sox just 41 games is what they won this year. A typical improvement for a team is somewhere between 5 to 10 games. So you're talking about 51 being your stepping stone right now. 51 wins. That's 111 losses, sorry. To be your goal for this year.
People will come, Ray.
People will come.
Your goal is to lose 110 instead of 121.
It'll be as if they dipped themselves in magic waters.
No. No one's dipping themselves anywhere.
Yeah. It's just it's
all right,
sad. It's sad for White Sox fans. The trade itself, I mean, we're gonna see. We'll see in 5 years. You won't know until then.
That's how it is in baseball.
Yeah, you won't know. These guys that are coming up. I mean, maybe Braden's ready in maybe a year or two.
Could be. He's 21. It's not like he's not a prep star.
Yeah,
he's 21. He's got a lot of the tools. He has a great year this year. It could be 26. We see him.
Yeah, but at that point too, like you're not going to know for another 2 or 3 years whether or not he's actually good, and then whether or not it's actually sustainable. A lot of guys come up and they're hot, and then they dip off, and you never hear from them again. But
Yohan Moncada.
It's going to be a long time before you know whether or not the White Sox won this trade. It's kind of a pointless conversation to have about whether or not they won the trade. As far as trading away a guy like Garrettt Crochet, it had to be done, right? Like, they're going to trade Luis Robert too. It had to be done.
Don't see why.
There's no reason for them to hold on to superstars right now. They are going to be in full rebuild mode, full tank mode, full black hole until Jerry Reinsdorf decides to sell. They just are. And I know you want to move on from this, but we've already talked about the Cubs, so we move on from this. We're talking about more depression. So do you want to talk about the Bears?
And that's our Bears intro.
Sounds about right.
That's our Bears transition. Let's do it.
You ready for Fitz gibberish?
Should I start? I just did Fitz gibberish. That's my Fitz gibberish. That's my Fitz gibberish.
I'm trying to go anywhere but Bears.
You are trying to go anywhere for Bears, and you have a Bears hat on, a Bears sweater on. There's Bears behind you.
You know why I have this Bears sweater on? So I'm going after the show. I'm going to my fantasy football league's Christmas party. It is an ugly sweater Christmas party. And what is uglier than the Chicago Bears right now?
At this point, I mean, Jesus.
It's bad.
It gets
Look, you
worse.
thought that there would be some. You thought there would be some new coach, rah. Let's go and let's show some life and show some fight. They got their heads kicked in, man. Before I blinked, it was 24-0.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad. Really poor performance by the Bears. But I mean, it's a lost season at this point. So at this point now, moving forward, I mean, unless you want Thomas Brown to be your head coach, you're rooting for them to lose out, right? You're just improve your draft position or don't worsen your draft position. Like,
Yeah. Which is
it's where we're
bad.
at again. I can't believe we're here again, but we are, and that's what the Bears are right now. They are a team that you have to improve your draft. They've got we are at the same point right now that we were last year. You got to get the coaching staff right. You got it, and you got to just lose out and don't win any more games. Don't hurt your draft stock.
And that's why I want to talk about polls for a second here. I mean, do you trust this guy who said Shane Waldron was a great communicator? Do you trust a guy who goes out and pays for a tight end in Gerald Everett? Was this a 2 or 3 year deal they give to Gerald Everett?
Yeah.
Who has 7 receptions for 30 yards.
Okay.
And they're going to him more in the beginning of the season, and they go away from Cole Kmet, who just had a career year.
Yeah.
I
Look,
mean,
I think a lot of that part of it is coaching. I don't put that part of it on Ryan Poles. The stuff that I do put on Ryan Poles is in the offseason. You went into this offseason, and his number one priority should have been, because you already knew what you were getting at number 1. You already know what you wanted at number 9. Your priority at that point was, if you were going to draft Roma Dunze at 9, should have been the top 3 offensive linemen in free agency. And what did you do? You got the 6th and 7th best free agents in the offensive line market. You didn't do the things that you were supposed to do. And whether or not you were told, hey, you can't fire Matt Eberflus at the end of last season, whether or not you were told, hey, Shane Waldron is going to be our next guy, this is the guy I want, so you can't hire Jim Harbaugh, whether or not you were told all that stuff. And that's a whole different conversation to have. You were not told which offensive linemen you could and could not go and get. You were not told which guys you could and could not scout and realize the talent on. You had a lot of money to spend. They still have a lot of money to spend, salary cap wise, and you didn't spend it. And you went into a season with a rookie quarterback, with a very poor offensive line, with a very poor center, with a coaching staff that was about as inept as we've ever seen. It was only comparable to as inept as they were last year and the year before that. It's the same song and dance. So do I trust Ryan Poles to get this right? No, I don't.
Yeah, I just think building an offensive line takes years. You had runway. You knew you weren't going to be good in 22. You had runway. And instead, in 2022, you pick Velus Jones at 77th overall. And Abraham Lucas, who's the right tackle for the Seattle Seahawks right now, is right there. Then you don't have to get their right tackle now. Right.
Who no, Braxton Jones? No,
left tackle.
Jones, left tackle. God, they've moved so many damn positions.
Maybe you could get Jalen Carter. Anyway, maybe you can get Jalen Carter instead of letting him go to the Eagles, and now you got your three technique for defense, and maybe your defensive line is better. It's like all these things are like dominoes dropping, And,
see,
and
we've said before, though, that we didn't blame them about Jalen Carter, right? They didn't have the right locker room to bring in a Jalen Carter who was coming off of all that crap that he had to deal with out of Georgia because, that's what Georgia does is they breed criminals. But, Kirby Smart, destroys a guy for celebrating with the other team after the game. But you get a DUI, you're good. Run away from an accident, I'll sign you. Don't
exactly. And then you get Tyreek Stevenson, which can we say right now, Tyreek Stevenson is not working out, especially after his performance on Sunday. He is just not working out. You get Tyreek Stevenson, and who's taken right after Tyreek Stevenson? And we've talked about this before, John Michael Schmitz, who is the very good center for the Giants. He's had a little injury concerns this year, but almost everybody on the offensive line has that everywhere, but has been a very good center, and it's thought of it as a top 5 center right now in football, and that's what you wanted as a center. I mean,
I wanted a proven center with Caleb Williams. I wanted a guy that could help Caleb recognize blitz packages. I wanted him somebody who could help and pick up coverages, somebody who can call out stuff, call out who the mic is and all that stuff. Like, that's who I wanted them to get at center. I didn't really want a rookie at center, even though I would have been okay with Jackson Powers-Johnson, who ended up with the Raiders. I would have been okay with that. But I wanted a proven center, and they went out and they got 2 guys who sort of played center, but could also play guard and could also play tackle. And
they can't play any of those.
But they did the same thing this is what I said yesterday about the Kyle Tucker deal is if no more moves happen, it's just the Bears again, right? You're waving shiny objects in front of us to make us forget about the glaring holes you have. Because right after you didn't do any of that stuff, you go out and you get Keenan Allen. You go out and you get DeAndre Swift. And you put these shiny objects in front of us and we forget, oh, yeah, coaching staff still sucks, but you slapped a beard on Matt Eberflus, so maybe we forgot a little bit about that. And now we're looking at all of this and we're looking at the shiny objects and the shiny toys, and they duped us. And I'm not going to be duped again. I'm just not. I don't trust Ryan Poles to get it right. He's going to have to accidentally get it right. Jalen Carter to an immature locker room argument is out the door.
It was always out.
Considering A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts are fighting, even though they win more than 70% of their games, Carter would have been well, right. But it's not just the locker room. It's not just the immature locker room. The fact that you would have had a coaching staff that didn't know how to win, like you've already got an immature player. Now you got you got an immature player in a locker room, in a culture with coaching that has no discipline and has no Jalen Carter here in Chicago is probably in prison.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you get somebody else there at what was it 9, and then they traded down to 10, or they were at 10 and they traded down to 11 with the Eagles there. If you have Lucas, what's his name? Abraham Lucas from this, who's a right tackle for the Seahawks right now. If you have him, you don't have to get Darnell Wright. You can get somebody else there. It's a lot of stuff. Chase Claypool is not even playing right now. He is not even playing in the Canadian League right now.
Yeah.
And you traded a 2nd round pick for him. Like, there's been a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
If the only thing is you fleece. If the only thing he did right is fleece a dumb team who would have done it to anybody who was sitting at that first pick in 23. If that's all that Pulse did was fleece the Carolina Panthers, like, what else has he done? What else is there to build on here?
Got it right with Caleb. I mean, there is that, which I mean,
he had the first pick in the draft,
and anybody would have gotten it right with Caleb. I mean, look, man, at this point, you can't even say kudos to him for extending DJ Moore, because DJ Moore looks like he quit on this team after about week 5. It's tough, man. It's tough, and you're right about Tyreek. I love Tyreek Stevenson. I've been a big Tyreek Stevenson fan since they drafted him. He's not been good. He hasn't been good since that Washington game. And again, you're in a locker room with a coaching staff that has 0 accountability, and it's hard for you to bring in young players into that atmosphere and expect them to care when they're not playing well. If my kid, if you have your kids, if you've got Aiden, right, and Aiden is running around a grocery store and he's knocking things off the shelves, and you grab him and you're like, hey, stop knocking things off the shelves, and then on your way out, you're in line and you grab him a Hershey bar. Do you think he's gonna not run around and knock things off the shelves the next time that you go to the grocery store? He's probably gonna think that there was nothing wrong with that, right? Because there was no repercussions for it. So it's the same way when you're dealing with players, even though they're grown ass adults, I get it. But when there's no repercussions for actions, when there's no accountability for your actions, you're going to continue to do them because if I could rob a bank every single week and get away with it, I'd be rich.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So,
but I don't know. I mean, sometimes at some point you got to take responsibility as a player. And Nick Johnson says he knows how to draft DBs. Well, he didn't know with Tyreek Stevenson, and no one's ever said, "Oh, thank God we had that defensive back, or we wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. Thank God we got that defensive back, or we wouldn't have won the division." But look at San Francisco now that they lost Trent Williams. And I hate to go back to left tackle, but look at what happened to San Francisco. I mean, unless they're playing the Bears, but look what happened to them. And yeah, I know they lost Christian McCaffrey too. I get that, but they're just not the same team without the line they had last year. I mean, you have to build a line over the years. You can't do it in 1 year. They're not going to be great next season. They are not. This is not going in the right direction then.
I want to address this by Nick Johnson. So Nick says, blame that has shifted onto polls in less than a calendar year is insane. Chicago fans truly can't appreciate anything. So Nick, if you are the president,
I was with you at the draft saying I wanted a lineman, Nick. So okay.
Yeah, if you are true. If you are the president of a company and you hire a staff, and that staff underperforms and that staff costs the company money, is it the staff's fault or is it your fault for hiring that staff? Because yes, is it the staff's fault for underperforming? Sure. Could they have been better at their job? Absolutely. But you hired these guys. You kept these guys around. So whether or not you were told you had to or whatever the case is, at that point, then what I would like polls to do is to grow a pair and be like, hey guys, I'm out. I can't have this be my legacy because you won't let me do anything that's good, and keeping these guys is just going to make us terrible. Like if that's what I would do. I don't care what position I'm in. If I'm in a position where I'm doing something, and I've been in a position as a manager, I've led teams, I've built teams. If I ever got to a point where my manager came to me and said, "Hey, you're going to do this with your team," I'm leaving. You run the show. You don't need me. You run the show. You do it. If you think you know what to do with the team and you think you know what's best for the team, you don't need me. I'll go find another company that'll do it, that'll let me do my job. And Ryan Poles hasn't done that. So for right now, until that all comes out and Ryan Poles says all that, Ryan Poles is the guy who takes the heat. So yes, has it shifted to him? Sure, but all the other guys are gone now. Matt Eberflus is gone now.
Yeah,
and gone now. Luke Getsy is gone now.
And firing Flus last year was good for the organization because you're probably not paying the rest of that contract. You're probably not paying the rest of Flus's contract because he probably gets a defensive coordinator job. He's not getting one now after what he did on Thanksgiving or even before that. He's not getting any job now.
I think he's just sitting in a defensive coordinator job just because you're not calling timeout. You know what I mean? Like you're a defensive coordinator, you're just calling plays.
Yeah.
He'll get a coordinator position. Matt Nagy got a coordinator position.
You are calling. He's not getting a defensive coordinator position right now. At the end of last year, he probably is. I'm just saying it's good for you because he's probably going to take that position and you don't have to pay out his contract. Yeah. Now you're probably going to do it because he ain't going to take a fucking linebacker coaching job somewhere else. And I don't know if that would void his contract, but I know a defensive coordinator position probably would. I'd have to look into the specifics on it.
Who aren't equipped to do a job, you can't be surprised when they fail. because you read the resume and you saw the other candidates. And look, I didn't believe, and I said this all the whole time, and I've been the biggest supporter of Ryan Poles throughout this entire process.
You have?
I've said that Ryan Poles did not hire Matt Eberflus. Ryan Poles was handed Matt Eberflus. There is no way Ryan Poles conducted a search 2 days into
he rehired him.
GM.
He rehired him in the third year. Hired. Whether it was his contract or not, he rehired him year 3.
That's what I'm saying. Like you've had 3 years to evaluate that. And sure, the reports are that you wanted to go away from him. Sure, the reports are you wanted to hire a different guy. You wanted a different voice, but you didn't. And whether or not that's on somebody else, maybe, but it's also on you because you're still here. You're still the one making the calls. You're still the one that is telling me that the decision is yours. Kevin Warren is telling us that the decision is yours. So if the decision has been truly yours the entire time, I can't trust you to do it again. That is my problem. I think Ryan Poles is a very smart football guy. I think Ryan Poles is a very capable general manager.
Look at the quote about Shane Waldron.
I don't think any general manager in this organization is going to be able to do their job. I don't put all of the blame on Ryan Poles, but Ryan Poles has to be able to do his job. And Ryan Poles can't do his job here. I think Ryan Poles will be great somewhere else. If he went to Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati would be a great spot for him. I think if he went to San Francisco, I think anywhere else in the NFL would be a great position for Ryan Poles. This organization, I blame from the top down. It's not just Ryan Poles. I'm out on Kevin Warren too. I've been out on the McCaskies. That vampire Virginia can go away and please sell this team. From the top down, this is a problem. And until that stops being a problem, it's not going away. The Bears are going to be in the same position. And in 3 years, we're going to be talking about where is Caleb Williams playing next and who are the Bears taking with a top 3 pick. Which quarterback are they picking in this draft? Because they are not going to win with this team unless they accidentally get it right at the coaching staff position. You've got to get the right head coach who hires the right coordinator, who hires the right defensive coordinator, and it's all got to come together. But the Bears have, in 40 years, have not shown the ability to hire those people. So why, after 40 years, am I going to believe that they are going to get this one right? I don't. It might fall in their lap. They might accidentally get it right. They might hire somebody who they should hire and just do it. But for right now, I can't believe that this team is going to get it right. I just can't.
The Bears are in playoff contention if they bit the bullet and hired Harbaugh. Agreed.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his moniker is now. It looks like one guy grabbing another guy's ass, but I'm just gonna
not gonna look at Kevin Warren. Yeah. Okay. So you probably wrote that before I just said what I said. It's from the top down. Poles is still part of this process, though. I think Poles can be good somewhere. I just don't know if he can be good as a Chicago Bears GM. I like Ryan Poles. I think Ryan Poles is a smart dude. I think Ryan Poles can't. I think that he can. Do I want him building an offensive line? No. Do I think that he needs somebody who can sit him down and be like, "Hey, Ryan, that guy's not really good." Because Ryan Poles likes to build offensive linemen, like Jed Hoyer likes to build bullpens, cheap. And not
Coleman Shelton is not good. Ryan Bates, not good. Guess who's I did want to watch. I guess we don't have to watch now, but I did want to watch. He was asked about Shane Waldron and what went wrong there.
Yeah.
If you want to watch that really quick, it's pretty awkward.
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, we could play it so people who haven't seen it. Let's go ahead and play it. It's definitely awkward, and it's kind of scary. Can you turn the volume up on your computer?
No, obviously.
It's all the way up. Whatever. It looks awkward anyway.
Yeah, they ask him the question, can you tell us what happened with Shane Waldron? And he pauses for like a good 10 to 15 seconds. And he kind of stammers through it.
He says communication wasn't there when he said he was a good communicator when he hired him. When that's the first thing he says.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna hire your next coach.
Yeah. I mean, Eberflus said a lot of that stuff. I don't know. I heard Eberflus say it. I'm not sure if I heard Poles say it, but I believe you. I mean, that he said it.
I'll find it.
You don't have to find it. I believe you. Because I remember Poles' press conference, and I remember all the things that Poles said, and every single one of them was incorrect. Or not Poles, Eberflus, and every single one of them was incorrect about Shane Waldron. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's not just, yes, Kevin Warren's part of the problem. Yes, the McCaskies are part of the problem. Get the hell out of the way and let these guys run a football team. But you've got to get the hell out of the way and let them run a football team. But the other problem is the decisions that Poles has been able to make are still part of the reason why the Bears are in the situation that they're in. Poles had some say on the offensive coordinator position. Poles had some say on which center he brought in. Poles had some say on which offensive line he put around Caleb Williams. So for that, yes, he has to take some of the blame, and yes, the blame should shift to him for that. 110%.
Yeah, I mean, and then you the right guard you do pick up. Your big free agent, your biggest free agent offensive line is Nate Davis, who even people within the Bears and with the Titans said he was not reliable, that he did not want to do the work, and he did not want to stay in the game. You know, takes a lot of practices off, and he's done that the last 2 years until they just cut him. And that's 3 years, $30 million that they give to a right guard. I mean, there is a lot of failures are stacking up.
Yeah. Took him a long time to walk away from Velus Jones for whatever reason.
I don't know why. In his first kickoff, he's fumbling it. Maybe he was on marijuana. I don't know. But I mean, Rashaan Salam used to fumble the ball all the time. And then he came out saying that, he was addicted to marijuana, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, I agree with. Look, he also was able to re-sign Jalen Johnson and Sweat before they hit the market, and then avoided overpaying Matthew Judon, who's done nothing all year. I agree. I'm not saying like I think you're only hearing the bad things that I'm saying about Poles. I've said that there's some things that Poles does. I think Poles can be a really good general manager. I think he needs somebody by his side that can tell him, that can help him evaluate certain talent. But yeah, do I think Poles could be a successful GM in this league? Absolutely. I don't think anybody could be a successful GM with this Bears organization. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where exactly. I'm not in these rooms. I don't know exactly where all the blame goes for everything. All I can do is look toward the draft. Yeah. And you drafted guys. Yes, defensive backs are important, I guess.
The most important thing in the draft this year is offensive line, and he's already shown that he can't evaluate that talent. So that's when I say I don't want him making these picks. That's why I want somebody next to him. It's just
defensive backs are really important 20 years ago. Like, it's not that important anymore. You breathe on a guy and you get a flag for it now. Like, would I like to have the best defensive backs in the league? Yes, I would love that. Over offensive linemen? Hell no. And you could see the dominoes here. It's very easy to see. You could call it whatever you want to call it, but you could see the series of events that worked up to 56 sacks.
Negative Chicago meatball mindset. That's insane. It's not. He's been the GM here for 3 years. How good is this offensive line, Nick? How good is this offensive line? And he's been here for 3 years. How good is the talent surrounding, what is your most important asset, which is your rookie quarterback? How good is the talent that is supposed to protect him? It's not very good.
And I'm not even saying particularly.
But
I said once to fire him. He says kick this guy, his potential, kick him to the curb. I'm not even saying to fire him. I've never said it once. I don't want him
making the picks. I don't want him making the picks. I don't want him being alone in the search for a head coach, unless he wasn't allowed to select Eberflus, unless he wasn't allowed to select Waldron, unless he wasn't allowed, you know what I mean? Like, if this truly wasn't him, and you're finally going to say, okay, Ryan, go ahead, you get your guys, and let's see how it works. If that's what's going on, then sure. But I still, like, there are still things that I don't want him doing. I don't want him evaluating the draft, the offensive lineman in the draft. I just don't.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just saying I don't have confidence. I'm not saying. Look, he was as high as he got. At the beginning of the season polls, his stock was as high as it got. It's not that high anymore. It's obvious things did not work out. A bunch of second and third stringers on your offensive line. Look up Nick Johnson, what he said about this offensive line. I feel comfortable with it. We got 10 guys.
They thought they had a mid-level, middle of the road offensive line, and they don't even have that.
No. 56 sacks, the most sacks unblocked in the league.
Some of those are on Caleb. Some of them are on Caleb, but not all of them.
Unblocked? Caleb's got
not the unblocked ones. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, what I've seen is Caleb's gotten out of more sacks than it been his fault, but I don't know. I'm not for sure on that. I'd have to go back to every single game. I don't think there's a stat for that, but I think he's gotten out of more sacks.
Rewatch every single game.
I think he's gotten out of more sacks. I'm not saying to fire Poles. They're not going to fire Poles. It's not going to happen. I'm just saying I don't think he's as good as everybody's seen. And Downing says, what about that Caleb? Well, we did talk about the Caleb Williams and DJ Moore trade. I'm just saying, what has he done other than that?
And Nick said there's only 2 to 3 teams with elite offense. You don't have to be elite. Be good. Be the average offensive line that you thought that they were going to be.
You have 2 elite offensive lines in this fucking division. Like, what?
And they weren't even starters on their teams that you went and signed them from. They weren't even starters on those teams. They were backups on those teams.
They weren't.
And now you wanted them to be backups for your most important draft pick in your franchise's history.
And you miss big time on Nate Davis too. And you miss big time. And you got a 6th, 7th rounder playing at left tackle.
I mean, at this point, did they miss on Tevin Jenkins too? Can we say that now? I mean, the Tevin Jenkins is good when he's healthy, but he's never healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I see when a guy's not that healthy, he's good when he's not healthy. I'm going to put that in the okay category. I mean, he's made so many other misses.
Yeah.
2 to 3 teams have an elite offensive. I mean, man, this is so bad. It's comical. Like, just don't be comical. 56 sacks. You might set the goddamn record. And you have 2 teams in your division who have elite offensive lines.
Where's the whole line top to bottom that is stacked? There's no team like that in the NFL. There's also no team that has allowed 56 sacks in the NFL.
I'm just saying it's comical how bad they are. And they were kind of comically bad last year too. You just had a guy who was elite at getting out of sacks.
Yeah.
At least the last 2 years. And they were so bad the last year with Nagy.
Look at the division when it comes to rebuild pivots. Minnesota, Detroit, and Green Bay all retooled and restructured the foundation of their teams. And since the doink has been worst case scenario for the Bears. I mean, it's been really bad. It's embarrassing. There's so many words. I mean, we've already said all the words that we could say about what this Bears team is. I'm just to the point as a Bears fan, and to be honest with you, just as a Chicago sports fan, that I can't let you dupe me again. Like, I don't believe you're going to get it right until you show me that you get it right from now on.
I mean,
I'm not going to pick the White Sox to win a division. I'm not going to pick the Cubs to be in the NLCS. I'm not picking the Bears to win 10 games until they actually do it. And
I mean, I could see if they threw a lot at it, and it was sort of a Tevin Jenkins thing where they had talent, guys just got hurt. I wouldn't be saying it. They haven't drafted anybody. They drafted Amagaji. That's their biggest draft pick. The guy who had quad surgery in the offseason.
Yeah.
They haven't drafted anybody. Kieran Magaji is the highest draft pick they have.
He can't get on the field.
He can't. can't get on the field. I mean, maybe he ends up being a good tackle.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's from Yale. Like that's the draft capital you put into it.
The problem is,
Like,
if he was able to get on the field, Shane Waldron would have tried to hand him the ball. I mean, yes, there. Look, is Poles the main culprit? Is Poles the biggest issue that the Bears have? Absolutely not.
No.
But does he deserve some of the blame? Absolutely.
No, and I think he's done enough to probably deserve another year or two, but I don't see this going better next year. I mean, they were 7-10 last year.
I see them getting it right. If they're letting Ryan Poles pick the coach, and he goes and picks a coach that has some sort of say over the roster. If you've got a Ben Johnson who's going to come in and be like, these are the offensive linemen we need to target in the draft, I'm okay with that. That's why I'm saying Ryan Poles, I believe, needs that guy to help him with certain things. He can see some things really well, and there are other things that I don't trust him to do. That's my thing with Ryan Poles.
No QB in history that's gotten hit at his current rate, meaning Caleb, has hit their initial ceiling after a rookie year gangbang. That's Southside language right there.
Yeah,
motherfucker. Yeah, I mean, and that would be sad if that's what happens. But there's a lot of quarterbacks in the history. Is it David Carr, Derek Carr's brother, who just got pasted when the Texans was who had all the talent in the world and just got paid and led the league in sacks for his first 3 years and just couldn't move anymore.
Right.
Look what happened to Justin Fields. You could say Justin Fields sucked too. Go ahead, say it, but he got beat up here.
Yeah.
I hate to belabor the point. I do not think maybe Poles doesn't deserve to be fired. I mean, I'm not calling for his name. I'm just saying for a guy who was having flowers thrown at his feet. We said before this year came, you had all this draft capital. You had a 7-10 team that went 6-2 at the end, or 5-3 at least at the end of the season last season. You come into this season and you go 4-9 with this fucking schedule to start the season. Justin Fields sucks.
Justin Fields went to Pittsburgh and had his first winning record as a quarterback at 4-2.
I mean, I don't want to have that again either. I don't want to have that discussion again either, but they're worse this year. Any GM would be getting chewed out if he went 7-10, had the 1st and 9th pick in the draft, and 80 million, whatever the cap was space that they had, and you got worse.
Yeah.
Any GM would be getting his ass chewed out.
Unimaginable that was.
They haven't had a lot of injuries either.
We thought that they were going to get better, which is why we thought that they were going to be a 10-win team.
Where are all their injuries either? Oh, they had an injury to one of their defensive backs.
Brisker
got hurt.
There's rumors that he might not ever play again.
The whole team folded because
what the hell happened to Jaquan Brisker? I didn't even see him get hurt during the game.
It's a violent sport.
And he's like, now I'm hearing rumors that he might. There's a possibility he could never play again.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
They should just turn it into flag football. Like I said, make it basketball with traveling.
Now that we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes and John is probably drunk and passed out on the couch, let's talk some college football. Let's talk Notre Dame. Let's talk the college football playoff bracket. I'm going to bring it up here.
Can I do my transition? Can I do my transition for Johnny to college?
Sure.
What's going on with Johnny right now? I can't.
Pretty accurate. So we've got first round starts this week, Friday and Saturday. You got Notre Dame and Indiana on Friday, and then the other 3 games are on Saturday. Penn State SMU kickoff at 11. It is Clemson in Texas at 3, and then the nightcap is Ohio State versus Tennessee, which I think is going to be a great game. Let's start with Clemson, Texas. What do you see coming out of this game? What are you expecting? Are you expecting an upset here? Do you think that Cade Klubnik and the boys can beat Quinn Ewers and the boys?
Here we go.
What do you know? Let me ask you this: what do you know about Texas football?
I know a little bit about Texas football. They got a good team this year. I think I'm going with the Longhorns this year. I even know the mascot, for Christ's sake. No, I think I'm going with Texas.
Does that have nothing to do with you beforehand telling me before the show where I told you Texas was going to win?
It's Texas. Who's playing quarterback for Texas? Colt McCoy. But no, I think Texas is going to win this game. Yeah, I think they have the better team. I mean,
yeah, I think they have
college football, but I got them winning.
I think Quinn Ewers is going to have a really good game. I don't think that Clemson's defensive front can. They're going to get demolished in the trenches. Offensively and defensively, they are just they're not on Texas's level. Texas is elite. Then we got Tennessee, Ohio State. Ohio State coming off that big loss to Michigan, that turned into a brawl where players got maced. Ryan Day not very good in big games.
No, he's not.
And you got Tennessee, a team that a lot of people thought had an outside chance to win the SEC. They were not in the SEC title game. And a lot of people were a sweetheart pick preseason to win the whole thing, myself included.
You like Tennessee?
I did. And so I actually think Tennessee wins this game, even though it's at the Horseshoe, even though it's at night. It's going to be a blacked out game for Ohio State and their fan base and all that stuff. I really think that Tennessee has the better offensive line. I think that they can dominate on the run in the run game. I think that they are just Ohio State's quarterback is not very good. There was a lot of bad picks, and I think Tennessee eats them alive. So I'm going with Tennessee in this one.
God, I don't want to go with Ohio State. I hate their coach.
Tennessee.
I'll go with Tennessee here.
All right. SMU and Penn State.
You love SMU.
I love them against Penn State.
You love them.
I'll tell you that. I do love SMU against Penn State. I think SMU has an outside chance to cover in this game. I don't know that they can win this game outright, though. Man, it's hard to trust Penn State in a big game too, but I think this is a different Penn State team, man. They play really, really tough against some really good teams this year. So I'm gonna go with Penn State to win it outright. If we were picking against the spread, though, I'd go with SMU.
I can't go for a team that rapes kids and then tries to sweep it under the rug. So I'm going SMU. Let's go SMU.
They're going to rape SMU.
We'll see.
Indiana and Notre Dame Friday night in South Bend, baby.
Oh, the Battle of Indiana.
Beginning of the year, we were talking about Notre Dame, and I was like, man, they've got a really young offensive line, a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores. I don't know if you know what this is going to lead to. And since that loss to NIU, which I think just woke this team up, they've just blown out opponents, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just blown out opponents. And now look, it wasn't the toughest schedule in the world, but they did play 3 top 25 opponents, and they're 3-0 against those top 25 opponents. And so there's no way I'm picking Indiana in this game at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame probably wins this one by 10, maybe more. It's a 7.5 point spread. We thought it would open up at about 6.5 is what we said last week. I'm going with Notre Dame. And Downey Thomas says he'll have his best Christmas ever if Indiana wins.
It's the battle for Indiana.
Yeah. You want to make a bet, Downey Thomas? If Indiana wins, you get your best Christmas ever. If Indiana loses, I get Megan TV.
Oh, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm gonna fucking impale you. Fighting Irish up your ass.
Oh God.
But I can't take it. You're unbelievable. I can't take Indiana either. You fucking scumbag. Rapist. Anyway.
All right.
I'm going Notre Dame.
The second round. Texas versus Arizona State. If Texas wins, Arizona State is not beating anybody. I don't get whether it's Clemson or Texas. I would pick either one of those teams over Arizona State. They had a good season, had a good run in the Big 12, but they're just not at that level. What's that?
Nothing.
Oh.
I'm going Texas too.
All right, and then Tennessee would play Oregon if they win, or they play Ohio State. A rematch of the Big Ten. Well, not a rematch of the Big Ten title game. That would be against Penn State. But Tennessee or Oregon, Ohio State. It would be a rematch. Ohio State's first loss of the season. Before they lost to Michigan, it was a 3-point loss, I believe, 2 or 3 point loss for that team. So, Oregon's really, really good.
Yeah,
but I think Tennessee's going to stop them.
Oh, here we go.
I think you're going to have your first big upset of the college football playoff. If it's Tennessee, if it's Ohio State, I'm picking Oregon again. But if it's Tennessee, I'm all over Tennessee in that game. I think they beat Oregon.
I'm Oregon.
Oregon.
Right. Take the trail.
Penn
Take
State.
The trail.
Boise State. Boise State will play either Penn State or SMU. If it's SMU, I would pick Boise State, but since I picked Penn State to win that game, I think Penn State beats Boise State as well. Ashton Genty is a human video game at Boise State.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who missed 2 games with injury and then had 3 other complete halves where he sat out of blowouts. So that's 3.5 games that he missed, and he still had nearly 2,500 yards rushing and 30 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's the real deal, man. And he could run all over the place, but I think Penn State will let him eat. I think Penn State can score with Boise State. And so I'm going to take Penn State. It's tough for me to take Penn State. I'll be rooting for Boise State in that game. I don't like Penn State at all. But I'm taking Penn State in that game.
And I'll take Boise State in this game against SMU because I took SMU. And the Bears are taking Gentry at 9?
You know what?
9 in the draft. Here we go. Yes, I talked you into it. Come to Idaho. Eat a potato. Let's go.
Let's go. Ashton Genty.
You ever smoke weed out of a potato?
No.
Neither have I. Neither have I.
Liar.
Tastes like French fries. Anyway, I wouldn't know that. I heard that from somebody.
Oh, God. Notre Dame would get Georgia in the second round at the Sugar Bowl on January 1st.
This is tough, man.
I've said all along that I thought that Notre Dame would beat Alabama or Georgia. I think that this is a different Notre Dame team. I think this is a different college football landscape. I don't think this is the same. A lot of people are talking about what happens when Notre Dame plays against the SEC. This isn't our linebacker with an imaginary girlfriend who doesn't exist, who passed away. This is a different college football landscape. The NIL has completely leveled the playing field. Notre Dame runs the ball as well as anybody.
Yeah, that offensive line, man.
And their defense is top 2 in the nation. In Georgia right now, as it looks, they are going to be without Carson Beck. And no Carson Beck. I know though they're just going to bring up another top 5, a 5-star quarterback. But it's tough to play a freshman quarterback in the Sugar Bowl against a team like Notre Dame and expect them to win. So I'm going with the Irish to get to the semifinals.
Doubting Thomas says if you motherfuckers pick on D over UGA, I'm done with this podcast.
Well, guess what?
He's from Georgia.
Megan says, hi, Michelle. I love you. Megan, Michelle knows all about us. She knows all about us. I told her. She's okay with it.
Oh, my God. No, she's not. You're a fucking pig. Shut up. Jesus. What is this show doing? We start out talking about aliens. This isn't even a sports show anymore. We used to do a pregame Bears show We actually tried to do a pregame Bears show this year, and then we're just done doing Bears pregames. We're just done. By the way, anybody out there that listens to the show, we are done doing Bears pregames unless we get paid for it at a bar.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm picking Notre Dame over Georgia. I think Notre Dame's a better team than Georgia right now. They're hurt. They're injured. I think they're better.
It's a tough one for me. Notre Dame, Boise State, man, that would be great.
Yeah, it would.
I don't know. After one game, who knows what happens after that Indiana game? I'm gonna have to go Georgia, and not because Doubting Thomas said anything.
I think it's because you're scared of your sister and you're scared of Doubting Thomas.
I watched the Northern Illinois game, so
Texas versus Tennessee. I watched the Northern Illinois game. Did you watch the game where Vanderbilt beat Georgia? Yeah, that's why
I missed that game.
Yeah, okay. So Texas,
I missed it.
Texas would face off against
afterwards when they took down the goalposts and all that, and Vanderbilt went insane. But
Texas face off against Tennessee. For me, they would face off against Oregon. For you, who are you taking in that game? I'm taking Texas to beat Tennessee. I think that's where Tennessee's ride ends.
I think Oregon wins again. I think they're in the national championship.
I think Oregon wins again. They're in the national championship. And then Boise State versus Georgia for you. I have Boise State, Notre Dame. I'm going Notre Dame. I think that it'll be a really good game. I think it'll be a lot of fun to watch. But I think in the end, Notre Dame could be that defense that slows down Ashton Genty.
Wow. You got Notre Dame, Texas, huh?
Yep.
I'm going Georgia, Oregon. We'll see what happens. I sure hope Notre Dame gets in. Notre Dame, Texas would just be man, that would just be a crazy
end
national champion. That would be the highest rated national championship.
Texas versus Notre Dame.
Period.
I would love to pick the Irish to win the championship, but I've said since week 3, Texas is the best team in the country. And I think that they will remain the best team in the country. I think that they will beat Notre Dame in the college football championship. And so I'm taking Texas to win it all.
Nick Johnston, Penn State, easiest path. ND beats Indiana. Hoosiers are frauds. I wouldn't call them frauds. I just don't think they have the pedigree ND has, especially that offensive line. I think is just going to dominate that game. But ND gets walloped by UGA, no doubt. Johnston's coming in hot. I have new respect for Nick Johnston today. He's coming in hot. He's fighting me. He's fighting you.
Gets walloped by Notre Dame hasn't gotten walloped by anybody. Even that loss to NIU was a close game. And the only walloping they've done is 2 other teams. And
I wonder is he on cocaine? Like, what's going on with Nick Johnston? I'm worried. I'm a little worried about him. I'm a little scared of him, and I have a little respect for him. I didn't predict
this has nothing to do with that. This Doubting Thomas. Look, if you go back,
always with the favoritism, always thinks we're fanboys.
I will send you a copy of when I talked about it 2 weeks ago.
I had him beating Indiana,
and when I talked about this on BetMGM tonight, I actually picked the winners of every single college football championship game last Saturday. I like college football. I watch college football, and if Notre Dame wasn't good enough to beat these teams, I wouldn't pick them. But they are. They're that good, and it's time to start talking about them like they're that good. The only people that don't talk about them like they're that good are the haters.
If they were in a conference, they'd be talked about better.
Sure. You also watch the WNBA. Not as in depth as I watch college football, but sure. I look, if I didn't believe that it was going to be a thing, I wouldn't pick them. And they absolutely could go in. If they lost a big game to Georgia, look, would I say same old Notre Dame? Probably. And I would hate it, but this is just it's got a different feel to it this year, man. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, they had a younger team this year. Riley Leonard, new quarterback, even though he's I think he's got a lot of talent. I thought he'd have a better year. But this was always going to be a running team from the beginning. This line, as you've said many times, which is also true at the same time, this line was young. They didn't think they were going to be this good, and they're just dominating teams. I don't think Georgia's defensive line is going to dominate like they usually do in that game. I just think Georgia's just got too much talent for
Georgia to score in that game. That's where I'm at. If they had Carson Beck, I might pick Georgia in that game. But with no Carson Beck and with a true freshman quarterback as his backup in a game like that, I just think that this defense is much better than Georgia. Georgia's offense. That's my whole reasoning for picking Notre Dame over Georgia.
Jeremiah just got out of the tub. Carson
Beck is not very good, but he's better than a true freshman quarterback. And I would pick them to win that game if Carson Beck was starting, but he's not.
And UGA has time, I think, on their side. I think that helps, especially for young players. And I worry about Freeman winning 2 of these tough games in a row. I just worry about him. Do I think it's going to be a close game? I like to see where the lines are at for that game.
Yeah.
I mean, the Indiana game, what you said.
Georgia will probably be a 6-point favorite. Would be my guess. 6.5 point favorite.
Yeah. And we said the same thing about Notre Dame against Indiana. Notre Dame 7.5 point favorite going into the game.
Yeah. Nick Johnson says
he's walking it back. Be
Broad
tough,
may be too harsh a label. The Hoosiers, they've only trailed in 2 games this season. I mean, they're pretty good. Signetti has those boys believing, man. I like what Signetti's doing. They're not good enough to beat Notre Dame. They're just not. They might pull it off. I mean, look, it's college football, man. Anything can happen. Notre Dame hasn't played in 3 weeks now, so it could happen. I wouldn't expect it.
You did not miss any Cubs negativity, Jeremiah.
I wasn't negative, but I was.
The Ricketts have Combs lipstick all over their.
No,
Packers.
Nice try. That's not what happened.
You don't say a lot about the Ricketts. You get on Jed Hoyer. You don't say a lot about their.
What are you talking about? I've said plenty about the Ricketts.
I'm waiting.
The Ricketts are cheap. They don't spend a ton of money. They don't allow Jed
Hoyer
to spend as much money as he needs to spend. But the problem is, the fact of the matter is that last year the Cubs had the 7th highest payroll. Here's my problem with Jed Hoyer getting more money to spend is I don't trust him to spend it in the right places. They could say here's a $600 million budget, go spend it. And instead of getting Juan Soto, he's giving $600 million to Alex Bregman. You know what I mean? Like that's where it would be. And that's my problem with when you had the 7th highest payroll in baseball and you still couldn't put together a roster to win a really bad division. That's more on you. You gotta spend it in the right places. That's my difference between Jed Hoyer and Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles has showed some semblance of being able to build a roster, being able to give good contracts, being able to make good trades. I haven't seen that from Jed Hoyer yet.
No, because Jed Hoyer hasn't done really anything. I mean,
not since his boy Theo left.
He hasn't made big moves to where you could say, like, other than non-moves, like not getting a proven closer last year or a guy with a slugging percentage over, I don't know, 425.
Well, see, and here's the other thing with that too, Jeremiah. He says, look at Tucker's stats next to Juan Soto over the past 4 years, not too dissimilar. They don't make the trade if they don't plan on chasing him. But maybe they do because this is Chicago sports. And it's just, I mean, maybe they make the trade just to say, hey, look, we tried. It didn't work, even though they don't put any other pieces around them. I mean, great. You signed Tucker. What good is Tucker if he's 4 for 4 with 6 RBIs in a game, but they lose the game 7-6 because the bullpen can't hold a lead? And then he leaves after.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
Yeah. So I love Kyle Tucker. I love the Kyle Tucker.
That's Kyle Tucker in July.
I love the trade. I love what they did, but there's more to be done. So I need to see the full off season, and I need to see what the roster looks like after they're done making all their moves. But that's where I was at with the Cubs earlier. I was not slobbing on the Ricketts knob as this asshole over here to my
Got the lipstick on, put on some music. Cubs are awesome now. They make one trade, and the Cubs are great. You're going to go all happy to your Christmas party later. Hi, everybody. Did you hear about Kyle Tucker?
Astros give me Steelers vibes in the sense that Houston doesn't let someone go unless there's something wrong with them.
That's a good point.
Houston doesn't sign big contracts.
No, not really. I mean, Altuve?
Yeah, but they've got a lot of young talent, and Altuve wasn't a huge contract. They've got a lot of young talent, and then they always win. I mean, that's the thing with them. They always win. They knew they only had 1 year left of Kyle Tucker, and I heard Jeff Blum talk about this last night. You know Jeff Blum. Hero Jeff Blum.
14th inning, baby.
He was talking. He does the Astros.
Let's go.
He was talking about it yesterday on the radio. He said that the Astros knew they either had to trade him now and get something in return for him, or lose him later next year to somebody else for nothing. So they chose to get something in return for him.
They let Springer go, and he's been on a milk carton. Well, a lot of Springer's
been good in Toronto.
Springer's good when you bang on a can to tell you what the pitch is.
Yeah.
I'll give myself a rim shot.
Junior says, "Oh, that's why you're not answering." I guess he's calling me.
Carlos Correa is a Twin for a reason. Hasn't been exactly great with the Twins.
Yeah, because they don't pay contracts. They don't sign big contracts. That's why Carlos Correa walked. That's why they allowed Carlos Correa to walk. They weren't going to pay him.
He didn't get a big contract, though. I mean, we signed for 1 year with the Twins.
Yeah, and then he signed a longer extension. The year after the Twins, how long would he get? A 5-year, 6-year deal, 7-year deal? But
I'll ask the production staff.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's get out of here. I got some things to go do.
200 million, 6 years. You're right.
Congrats on making the FFL playoffs, Junior. And good luck this weekend against Fake Gibberish.
What the fuck?
Wow.
Fuck off.
After you defended the man earlier.
Yeah. It's the Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live for you youngins was a show. It's still on. No one really watches it anymore. It was a show, and back in the day, we all would, say the lines from the show, and there's a lot of people who are famous now from it.
I like the move. Caleb, the Cubs fleeced Houston for sure on paper. I got a feeling in my balls that something just ain't right. Could be wrong. That feeling in your balls is
the Ricketts have a feeling in their balls too, don't they? But don't they, Combs?
It's herpes. Junior says he's gonna bring home the W. Fitz.
Oh.
He's gonna let him get away with that, Fitz. I'm not even in the playoffs in this league. The only free league I play in, and I is the only league I didn't make the playoffs.
I got a pretty good team. I think I just beat your son in a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it was you. It was you I clobbered. Wrong Combs. Wrong Brandon Combs.
My team was atrocious. Do you want me to help you set your lineup so you can beat him?
Me?
Yeah, I'll help you set your lineup.
Fuck him up, Combs Jr. The fuck? I mean, it would come with more authority if he didn't have a moniker of one guy grabbing another guy's ass. Intimidation gone, Doubting Thomas.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. in 2024.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
We don't want to offend anybody.